We are back at it. Welcome back to another edition of the Pistols Firing Podcast. I'm Carson Cunningham, joined as always by Colby Powell. Colby, how you doing today? Sunday morning. How you feeling about Oklahoma State football on this Sunday?
Well, how am I doing this morning and how am I feeling about Oklahoma State football are two different questions. I'm having a decent morning. Got outside this morning, played in the backyard with kiddo. It's beautiful out. It's like 60 degrees, no wind. Yeah, it's a great morning. How am I feeling about OSU football? I'm feeling bad, Carson. I'm feeling really, really bad. Arguably as bad as I have felt about Oklahoma State football in my adult life. So I'm trying to not let it totally bring me down and ruin my weekend that everything is on fire and that the game that I said was going to be a blowout but wouldn't be a referendum on the season. Boy, it feels a lot more like a referendum than I thought it was going to, even if I thought it was going to get bad. So, I feel really bad about Oklahoma State football to answer the second part of that two-parter.
Yeah, I mean I think it's a real. To me, it was just shocking. The whole game to me was like the doomsday nightmare scenario from the very first play of the game. And we'll get into everything that happened in the game. We'll get into some fallout. We'll get into the uh, I got in Gavin Gundy's crosshairs. I got in Mike Gundy's son came after me on Twitter, came after really the entire fan base on Twitter, and ended up deleting all of them. I'll get into that in a little bit. That's way down the pecking order in terms of order of importance, but I will address that. And we'll get into the game, and then we'll get into just what this means big picture for Oklahoma State. Because look, no one expected them to go to Oregon and win for the most part. Maybe Gavin Gundy did, but the manner in which the game played out, I think, really shifts and changes a lot, which we'll get into. But first, this podcast is brought to you by Chris's University Spirit, your one-stop Cowboy shop. Be sure to shop at chrisuniversityspirit.com. We appreciate Chris's being with us every step of the way, through thick and thin, through some tough times, like 3-9 last year, maybe 1-11 this year. Don't know, but we appreciate Chris's being with us. They're loyal and true, as the alma mater says. Mike Gundy quoted the alma mater in the post game, and we appreciate Chris's being with us as always. So, Colby, let's get into the game. Hand up. I was completely wrong. I could not have been more incorrect about this game. Here, let me shift my computer around here so I can see it better. I'm kind of going back to my old laptop that hopefully we'll have a better recording experience with, that I used to work with Kyle Porter. That frustrated Kyle quite a bit. It lagged sometimes, but could not have been more wrong. I said the defense would keep them in the game, barring Bedlam mode being activated, which did happen. But I can't take credit for predicting anything accurately in that game. I mean, I did not think the defense would be as bad or worse than last year. I mean, none of the things I liked that I saw against UT Martin showed itself whatsoever against Oregon. Guys running wide open, deep. Let's start there, Colby, because that was kind of our big discussion point predicting this game. You predicted a massive blowout. Turns out you didn't go high enough, but you certainly predicted this game more accurately, and that was kind of what I think most people would expect, is the Oregon run away. But the manner in which they just destroyed Oklahoma State's defense was really jarring, and I was way wrong.
Yeah, it's coming out of that UT Martin game. Obviously, the last three quarters, the offense was pretty anemic, and we had some serious concerns there. But the defense seemed like a bit of a bright spot in that game. But it's hard to tell when you're playing an FCS opponent how much of it is the opponent and how much of it is what you're doing. And, I mean, clearly, you watched that game yesterday, Oklahoma State is closer in talent level, in schemes, in coaching, in everything they're doing. Oklahoma State is closer to UT Martin than they are to Oregon. And that's a tough pill to swallow. That's a really tough pill to swallow, considering where this program was at in the not too distant past. So, I picked it 44-6, I think was my prediction. I thought Oregon would run away. I didn't think it would get so out of hand so early. I mean, I tweeted the throw the damn towel gif with 13:24 left in the first quarter. It was just pretty obvious at that point that this could get really ugly. Dan Lanning does his interview after the first quarter, and she asked him, three guys already scored touchdowns in that first quarter. What do you think, Coach? He said, yeah, we're going to see how many we can get in the end zone today. Like he knew they were going for two early in that game. They went for two up 13-0 because they're practicing. It was a scrimmage for Oregon. And Man, that's tough. They had their third stringers in. I mean, it wasn't just the second string. They had third stringers. They had a sophomore in there who's a hometown kid from Eugene, Oregon, presumably a walk-on, probably never had any designs on really getting to play much football, and he's out there ripping it across the field. It just they had more touchdowns than we had first downs. Like there's no universe in which even predicting a blowout could have felt as bad as what yesterday felt. Oklahoma State had 211 total yards, 67 passing yards. I mean, you get outgained by 420 yards in that game. And Carson, last year, I think Oklahoma State had a really strong case as the worst team in the Power Four. And through 2 games this year, I mean, you had one fun quarter. You had 2 drives with Hosseini against an FCS opponent where he was running around and slinging it, and it looked like fun. And since then, you've got 3 quarters against an FCS opponent where you looked like you were just a little bit better than they were. And you've got 4 quarters against one of the better teams in the country where it's pretty obvious that you're on a entirely different planet. You're closer to UT Martin than you are to Oregon. And for the second straight year, with all new players and all new coaches, it looks like Oklahoma State has the potential to be the worst team in the Power Four. I said on the pregame I'm predicting a blowout, but I don't want that to influence how I look at the rest of the season. And then that happened. And now how could that not influence how I look at the rest of the season? How could I sit here and think that team is going to beat anybody other than, I mean, I assume they're still going to beat Tulsa. That OSU team was bad last year and beat Tulsa 45-10. So I assume they're still going to beat Tulsa. I'm not taking anything for granted after that. So no matter how bad I thought it was going to go, it still went so much worse.
Oregon averaged 10 yards per play. And I think you touched on what I think ultimately is the more, like, it's one thing again to get blown out by Oregon. Power 4 schools do not lose to Power 4 schools in this manner. That's the 5-alarm fire aspect of this, Colby. Montana State scored more points against Oregon and kept the game closer than Oklahoma State, which, one, is shocking. 2, it's ironic that Mike Gundy's first ever career game was against Montana State as head coach. That's just kind of a weird irony there. But that's the reason why this went from a loss to a referendum on what is Oklahoma State doing with Mike Gundy. And look here, just to reiterate how bad the game against Oregon was. Oregon had 10 offensive plays of at least 20 yards and 5 plays of at least 40 yards. This is the worst margin of defeat for Oklahoma State since 1907, Colby. 1907. It's the most points allowed since allowing 71 to Texas in 1998. And OSU averaged just 3.5 yards per play. Oregon averaged 10.2, Colby. They averaged a first down with every single play. My question to you is, before we get into the offense, and since we're starting with just them getting torched, is the Oklahoma State defense worse than last year, or is this just the factor that they're playing Oregon? And look, they are playing Oregon. They really impressed me, Colby. We'll get into their dynamic play calling versus Oklahoma State's just atrocious play calling. But the defense seems worse, if that's possible. And I didn't think that was possible going into Saturday.
Yeah, we're not going to have the answer to that question, whether it's worse than last year, until we get into conference play and see what this defense looks like against Tulsa, Baylor, Arizona, Houston, Cincinnati. Then we'll know, is this defense worse than last year's? It couldn't have gotten much worse than it did yesterday. That 10 yards per play stat that you throw out, that obviously came down in the second half whenever the second and third string got in for Oregon and they started to run the clock in the fourth quarter. Oregon averaged more than 13 yards per play in the first half. With the starters out there and Oregon trying to move the ball, they averaged more than 13 yards per play. You just mentioned those 5 plays that Oregon had of 40-plus yards. Oklahoma State had 211 total yards for the game. Oregon had more yards on 5 plays than Oklahoma State had in the football game. And, you know, I really did feel bad for Zane on the back-to-back pick sixes. I said, Carson, I don't think we're even going to be able to find out if Zane's talented. He is totally in a position that was the most set up to fail position you could possibly imagine for a quarterback. Now, did he go out and light it up? No, of course he didn't. The pass blocking on the opening third down, I thought Oklahoma State was running a screen I thought it was a bubble screen, and that's why everybody got through. It wasn't a bubble screen. Everybody just got through. Nobody got blocked. It's
Well, like, are we
I'm trying.
starting to see? Let me jump in here
Go ahead.
before
Go
you
ahead.
move on. We're isn't this what we've seen from Oklahoma State quarterbacks? We you and I have I've brought this up on this
Oh
show
no, is that
many
your internet or
times.
mine? You just froze.
My back,
One of us is frozen. I think it's you, but I can't say for sure.
my back.
Okay, you're back.
I'm back. We'll have to. I'll hopefully have to
Yeah,
edit
you're
that
back.
out.
I didn't. I didn't know that. But,
Let me interject to your
yeah,
last
you just
point.
went robotic for a second. So yeah, I lost you right as you took it back from me. Is whenever I lost you and you
Yeah,
froze
like
up.
I want to have a little back and forth about this because isn't this something I've brought up many times on this show where the quarterback gets it, like typically this comes from a backup quarterback, which technically Zane is, like the backup quarterback's ability to not even run this offense is alarming. His lack of ability to run an offense because the offensive line is so inept and so bad. I was watching the game, Colby, and my first thought was, well, maybe Garrett Rangel's better than he actually showed at Oklahoma State because this is what he's dealing with. This is the offense that he's given. This is the chance he's given with this offensive line play. We have no idea how good Zane Flores is. He looked terrible, but you just Milwaukee Smith at Colorado last year. This is the same offense we've seen for a decade now. They have zero identity. They have zero creativity. Just the simple fact is, here, I don't want to move on. Just I interjected you, but doesn't this shine a light on how the quarterbacks at Oklahoma State are given zero chance in this offense?
Yeah, it really does. And you say a decade. So we'll go back. Let's take it from the end of Mason's career. When Mason left Oklahoma State after the 2017 season, there's just been a whole lot of searching since then. A whole lot of trying to figure out what's going to work on that side of the ball. And most of it has been a struggle. Spencer was really good for several years, covered up some warts. Even still, when Spencer was here, there were a lot of moments when I know the fan base was critical of him, was critical of the offense, of the play calling. Just of all of it. But his ability to run, his ability to take off, cover up some of the offensive line deficiencies. Also, the fact that those teams won some football games while he was here, like it covered some things up. But nothing's getting covered up now. Every wart is just shining through at the surface. And I want to be able to talk about the situation we find ourselves in right now without being too hyperbolic. It's hard not to be hyperbolic after a 69-3 loss like what you saw yesterday. It didn't look like two Power 4 opponents playing against each other. And I want to have hope that you have a bye week and you take 2 weeks and figure some things out and beat up on Tulsa and go win a few conference games. But what I saw yesterday was worse than I could have possibly imagined. And I just assumed that by default, getting Meacham and Grantham into the building, things would be better than they were last year. Carson, nothing is different on the offense. Meacham hasn't added anything. There are no new wrinkles. Carson, it's comical how similar it is, right down to the fact that Oklahoma State ran the Wildcat formation one time yesterday. It worked, and they never ran it again.
That didn't even
What,
dawn on me.
what's happening? Carson, it's comical. It's the same thing we saw last year with Ollie. They let Ollie do it one time in a game and then never went back to it. And yesterday, they let Trent Howland do it one time in a game to set up the only first and goal they got all day. And then they didn't give the ball to Howland any of the last three carries. They should have just gone Howland in the Wildcat three times and tried to score. It's comical right down to the exact element of using one Wildcat play in a game where your offense can't run the ball, but only one. Only one. It's exactly the same. But through two games, the Haas Haney quarter notwithstanding, because that's a different quarterback with different physical abilities. But the Haas Haney quarter notwithstanding, we've got 7 quarters of offense that's the exact same as it was a year ago with no new wrinkles. I mean, what was the new offensive coordinator hire for?
I don't know. I mean, my worst fears of Doug Meacham being a yes man are coming true. I mean, this is you could have told me Casey Dunn was calling plays against Oregon. I would have believed you. And and here's my larger issue with we all know the offensive playbook's a joke. We all know this is the Gundy offense, and we all know they have zero identity on offense ever since Mason Rudolph left in 2017. They've been just running whatever you want to. I don't know what to even call this offense. It's not air raid. It's not spread. It's not power. It's just kind of blah. Very little motion. They'll run one guy in motion very slowly. That's their new wrinkle, I guess. But the biggest issue I have with it is just compare Oregon's play calling versus Oklahoma State's. You would think if you were an alien, dropped down to earth and watched these two teams play, you would think Oregon was the underdog with how dynamic and creative and the trick plays. The play calling from Oregon was if they were the plucky underdog trying to pull off a massive upset at home. Oklahoma State runs an offense as if they are Alabama, as if they are, LSU, Ohio State. Name your power football program. They run plays like they're just going to line up and mow people down and just insert their will. Gone are the days of calling plays like Oregon. That is the biggest issue you and I have had since the 2018 season. And that to me is just the sign that this is never going to change.
Yeah, it used to be a fun, exciting offense to watch. And we used to be able to sit there and watch replays and look back at different formations and different things Oklahoma State was doing and guys moving around the field and getting guys open across the middle of the field and getting people into space. And none of that's there anymore. I mean, where is the space that you're operating with in this offense? Everything. Again, we're right back in the phone booth, Carson. We are right back in the phone booth. None of the backs. I mean, Howland had a nice drive yesterday. He looked like he was a better fit against, I don't know if it's just Oregon speed or whatever, but his bully ball looked certainly better than anything.
Good.
Yeah, Fields couldn't get anything. Hicks couldn't get anything. Brock couldn't get anything. Nobody could get anything. Howland had a little bit going. Only touched it a few times, but had a little bit going. But there's just nothing offensively. There's no ability to get guys open, no ability to get guys into space. Oregon was moving guys around the formation like crazy. They were getting tight ends into space. They were bringing crossers across the field, shallow crosses, deep crosses. Had guys running wide open up the sideline as Dante Moore rolls to the left. It's just some of that, I think, is probably Oklahoma State's defense being out of position. And some of that, I think, is Oregon doing a really good job on the offensive side and just out-coaching you to the point where they are coaching guys into space. And that's a thing that you can do. There are great offensive coordinators all around this country who are coaching guys into space. I mean, SMU and Baylor yesterday played a 48-45 game. It goes into overtime, obviously, but I watched that game. I had it up on the side screen. I mean, both of those teams are running real offenses with full route trees, guys going across the middle of the field, quarterback standing in the pocket, an actual pocket that exists, making throws. Oklahoma State it doesn't have it right now. And
did you watch the OU game at all?
Bits and pieces. It bad time for that game to start. We were doing stuff with kiddo and in-laws are in town. So it was on and I was peeking at it, but I didn't watch it well enough to really see what they were doing.
Well, cue up OU's inept, terrible offense from last year. It looks very similar to the type of plays. Like they thought they were going to be Alabama and just run the ball down people's throats, run a little play action, nothing silly, nothing tricky. It was one of the worst offenses in college football. I thought Jackson Arnold had a big reason to do with that. The reason I'm bringing this up, they go out and hire a young, up-and-coming, top offensive coordinator in the country. What was I calling for last season for an offensive coordinator, Colby?
Either Ben Arbuckle or Brennan Marion. I know we both like both of those guys. Yeah.
A young, up-and-coming, creative coordinator to bring his own playbook in. And OU's offense looked so much different than last year, so much more dynamic, so much more creative. That's the biggest issue here. He hires someone he's comfortable with in Doug Meacham, someone he's known a very long time, someone who is not going to change the offense. And this is a larger point. Will Stein, the young coordinator at Oregon, just lit up Oklahoma State. Like, those are the type of hires you have to make to compete with the Oregons of the world, to compete in the Big 12 let's go to a lower level, like the Big 12. Big 12 looks like it stinks right now, but where this all unraveled for Mike Gundy is coordinator hires. And Mike Yursich worked out. He ended up being a really good coordinator. That one worked out. But you can literally circle the calendar back in 2011, 2012, when Mike Gundy got tired of losing coordinators and started hiring coordinators he thought would stay, is where this all began. This is the very beginning of it. Besides Jim Knowles, who's the last good quality coordinator that he's hired? Yursich? You hired him in 2013. That's a very, very, very long time ago, especially in today's college football. And what Mike fails to see here is that your coordinators getting hired away is a great thing for your program. Number one, you're winning. That's first and foremost. Number two, that's a sign of a really good football program if your coordinators keep getting hired away. Keep hiring really good coordinators. Like Dana Holgerson was one of the hottest names out there, coordinator. And that worked out wonderfully. So to me, Colby, that's where this all stems from. That's how you get from one of the best offenses in the country, top 5 in yards per play, with Mike Yursich, to literally an offense that might be the worst in the country. And look, Doug Meacham was brought in here, I assume now, to run Haas Haney and his offense. But you're a college football program that should have a quarterback that can be functional in your offense. If Zane Flores can't be functional and you can't run the same playbook, I said this before they played the first game, or after they played the first game. Why did you keep him? Why didn't you keep Garrett Rangel or Milwaukee Smith? Because I do think those guys fell down the pecking order in depth chart, and that's why they transferred. That, to me, Colby, is where this all started.
Yeah, none of it really makes sense. None of it really makes sense for Meacham to come in, and maybe it is obvious that he was going to come in now in hindsight and run the Haas Haney offense, but you can't tell me that the drop off. I mean, you're a Division I Power 4 coordinator. You can't tell me that the dip in production from Haas Haney to Zane Flores being your quarterback out there takes your offense from, was this offense going to be elite with Haas Haney? We'll never know, I guess. Maybe we'll if he comes in, plays 2-3 games at the end of the year and they light it up, then okay, throw our hands up. It was just all a Haas Haney problem. It was just all a quarterback problem. But the dip from QB1 to QB2, who, by the way, all offseason we were told there was no QB1 and 2. It was 1 and 1A, 1A and 1B. The dip is this. The dip is totally non-functional. In 7 quarters, they got into the red zone once against UT Martin, or did they get in one other time and kick a field goal? And on a 3rd and 10, they score on a Sesi Vailahi jet sweep. The offense is non-functional, and it's not just against Oregon. The offense was borderline non-functional in the last 3 quarters against UT Martin. Like, they were picking up a few yards, but look all over the country. There are Division I Power 4 programs just drumming FCS schools, beating them by 60. I mean, Texas Tech is doing it. TCU went into North Carolina, beat them like an FCS school. Like, these are other Big 12 programs that we thought maybe Oklahoma State could be close to the level of coming into the season. Oklahoma State struggled against UT Martin. And in hindsight, look, I did pick this game to be a blowout, but in hindsight, we probably gave Oklahoma State a little bit too much of a pass for what the last 3 quarters against UT Martin looked like, because those were 2 teams that were closer to evenly matched than we probably wanted to admit. And it's just a bad sign. It's just I said it off the top. You're a lot closer to UT Martin than you are to Oregon right now. It's just, and I know Oregon's a great football team. I was very impressed by Oregon. I'm very impressed by Dan Lanning. I know Oklahoma State fans are probably annoyed with him because he keeps getting in front of the mic and saying, yeah, we've got all the money and we wanted to beat them by 100, whatever. But look, he's got a great program. He knows it. And he wanted to go out and send a message to the country yesterday that that's what they are, that they're one of the best programs in the country, and he did it. So, yeah, it's a tough scene in Stillwater right now. And this next month, let me pull up the schedule because I know that these next several games, Oklahoma State better find a couple of wins because if they don't get here in the next few, the schedule gets really tough down the stretch.
Well, you pull up the schedule, that's 10 straight losses for Oklahoma State against FBS teams. Only 3 of those losses have been by single digits, while 6 of those losses have come by at least 3 touchdowns. OSU's average margin of defeat during that stretch is 23.4 points. So in the last 4 seasons, Colby, there have been losses of 69-3, 52-0, 45-3, 33-7 to South Alabama, 48-0. Since October 29th, 2022, Oklahoma State has lost 11 games by 20 or more points. They've only won 15. This has gone from a disappointing season last year to the state of the program is like you said closer to an FCS school than a Power Four. They might be again the worst Power Four school in the country, and that's where all of the criticism that's coming towards Mike Gundy is valid, and we'll get into some of that. But just one more point. Or here you brought the schedule.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up here. So it's Tulsa in 2 weeks on that Friday. Again, I assume that Tulsa is still bad. Oklahoma State went 3-9 last year and beat Tulsa 45 to
Tulsa
10.
lost to I think New Mexico State. So like, but I don't know if I can pick OSU to beat anybody right now.
I'm going to pick us to beat Tulsa. That'll probably be the last game that I pick Oklahoma State to win this year, unless I see something different. After that, it's Baylor at home on September 27th, and then you're at Arizona, home against Houston, home against Cincinnati. So you've got 4 out of 5 games at home. 3 of those are Tulsa, Houston, and Cincinnati. After that, your schedule heats up with Tech, Kansas, K-State, UCF, and Iowa State. These next 5 games, Carson, I mean, I wanted to sit here and say that Oklahoma State could win 4 of those. That's how I felt before going to Oregon. I wanted to sit here and say that Oklahoma State could win 4 of those. And now you're looking at a situation where you might feel like Oklahoma State's going to lose 4 of those. If you're 2-4 and then you're going into those final 5 games, it could get bad, Carson. It could get really bad this year, worse than it was last year. The fan base is really on edge right now, worried about worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is 1-11. Again, I think you beat Tulsa, but I think 2-10 is very much in play. It's hard to see them winning more than 3 games right now. I mean, it's hard to see them outperforming last year's 3-9. At which point, are we looking at a new era of Oklahoma State football? I don't know if you want to go there yet or not, but
we can go there very, very soon. I did want to make one more point of just how poorly coached Oklahoma State is. Did you catch? Well, first off, so Oregon's attempting that long field goal, right? You remember that in the first half?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're going to say.
They put Parker Robertson back there, which look, he's your starting safety. You're running field goal safe. I understand that decision somewhat, but if you're going to put him all the way back by the goalpost, presumably to return a kick, don't you put a return man back there? First off, second off, he catches it, runs it out of the end zone, and costs Oklahoma State 30 yards of field position. Not only are they not talented, not only does this coaching staff seem inept when it comes to play calling and defensive play calling, they can't even coach them on simple football 101. And that to me was one of the better examples of how poorly coached this football team is. It's just that to me was just egregious and shines a light on just how poorly coached they are.
Yeah, field goal safe is whenever you have him back there 12 yards off the line of scrimmage, and in case of mistake, he was back there for the return. And as soon as he brought it out, because, Oregon's got tight ends running down the field and stuff. They've still got athletes going down there to get him. As soon as he runs it out, I'm like, Robertson runs it out to the 17, 18, and you're starting from there with an offense that is already just having a total inability to move the ball. It was, it was pretty emblematic of what the entire day was for Oklahoma State. It went as bad as it could possibly go. And Oregon, look, Oregon's really good, but is Oregon going to beat anybody else 69-3 this year? I mean, they beat Montana State 59-13. There were Oregon fans in the comments. There were some national writers tweeting, I didn't watch Oregon versus Montana State last week, but I imagine Montana State had to look better than this. And there's Oregon fans in the comments that are like, yeah, Montana State looked a good bit better than Oklahoma State. It's just, that's the discourse around your program right now. There's national writers, Carson. I saw tweeting out yesterday, what happened to Oklahoma State? How did one of college football's coolest brands become so sad? Like that's the discourse around this program right now. And, look, we got 10 more games for them to try to figure this out, or for the fans to try to make peace, come to some place of acceptance as to where you are in the pecking order of college football right now, because you're at the bottom of the list.
I take it you haven't seen the headline from Bill Haston.
No, I have not seen the headline from Bill Haston.
The process begins for the identification of OSU's next football coach is the headline on Bill Haston's column. And
appropriate.
Hard to disagree with that. He expects Mike Gundy to take a lesser buyout, and retire at the end of the year. Um, that to me would be the best outcome for all parties. But I don't know if it's going to make it through the year if it continues like this. I would suggest beating Tulsa because I was getting texts from people that are pretty locked into the situation with the power brokers up there. And I had heard this before Bill put it in his columns, but I'll share it now that Chad Weiberg took a ton of regents and big money donors to the game. What do you think those conversations were like up there, Colby? And before we get there,
they had a tea time at Bandon down the road to make that worth it.
I hope so. So I tweeted this, and it led to Gavin Gundy's ridiculous tweets on Twitter. But imagine spending the money that it takes to fly to Eugene, Oregon from Oklahoma or wherever you're from, pay the ticket prices, which college football ticket prices are insane, just like concert ticket prices are insane now. Imagine spending all of that money to go watch Oklahoma State play football. And I'm not one of those people who claims that fans have rights to act certain ways. I'm not one of those people. But imagine doing that and your head coach punts from Oregon's 42-yard line when you're down 13-0 as a 28.5-point underdog. I've made this point in Bedlam. I've made this point in other games. That is a slap in the face to every single person wearing orange in that stadium. Sorry, if that offends you. Sorry. That, again, Oklahoma State fans that went there weren't expecting you to even win the game necessarily, but they expect you to try. They expect you not to coach. They don't expect you to coach to win, to pull out all the stops, to try to win, not to tuck your tail and punt in that scenario. And I know it was 4th and 8. It wasn't 4th and 1, but they went for 4th and 1 on their own side of the field the very next possession. Like, again, it's acceptable to lose Bedlam. It's acceptable to lose on the road to Oregon. What's not acceptable is to turtle up and literally coach afraid to do anything. And that to me did not go over well with anyone there, I'm sure. Did not go well with all the big name donors, and certainly didn't go well with me.
I don't know, Carson. Anytime you have a chance to pick up 22 yards of field position on a team averaging 13 yards of play, I think you've got to do it. Right?
Right. And you're not stopping them. So why are you punting there?
So that's my big complaint. I thought there were two things that Mike Gundy might have done in that scenario. One was run the offense out there and try to pick up 8 yards. If you don't get it, they start from the 42 instead of the 20. Now, look, you could have pinned them at the 1. Honestly, I don't think it would have mattered. At that point, you as a head coach should be able to assess your defense is a wet paper sack. They're going to go right through you. It's going to be no problem for Oregon to get back down the field. And it doesn't matter if they start at their own 42 or their own 2. They're going to march down the field. The only difference is total yards in the box score. Give it a chance. Give a chance for Zane to rip a slant across the middle to Terrell Davis and see where he goes. I thought that was one option. The other option, the best player on your team is Logan Ward. I thought just to get some momentum, maybe if you run your kicker out there and he drills a really long field goal, it lifts everybody's spirits just a little bit. You're like, okay, disastrous start, but it's 13-3 now. Look at our kicker going out and hitting one from 59. Like, this dude's a beast. I don't know if he has the leg from 59. I think he probably does. I've watched him warm up many a time in Boone Pickens Stadium, and he'll be out there kicking 40-yarders that land in the second section in the west end zone. So I think he probably has the leg. Those were the two possible scenarios that I thought might happen there. And when they ran out to punt, Carson, it was so perfect. It was every conversation we've had about punting on this podcast for the last, I think we did the math. I've been on here 6 years with you, 5-6 years, something like that. It was every conversation we've had about punting since I've come onto this podcast. You're playing the field position game when at that point, I mean, Oregon was only 2-3 drives into the game at that point. At that point, they were probably averaging 30 yards a play because they had already scored 2 70-yard touchdowns. I just, honestly, it didn't totally shock me, but it shocked me even less when Oregon scored in about 3 or 4 plays from the 20. And it was just, yeah, the route was on at that point. The route was on, and then Lanning's trying to go for 2 again, but they had an illegal motion. Otherwise, they would have picked up the 2 there. It just, yeah. By the way, do you have any more on that? Or I want to read one line from Bill Haston here in this column he wrote. So this line from Bill Haston, it's a good one. It's a bar, as the kids would say. The old college football template, the one Gundy's program was really good at, it's gone. The old college football template, the one Gundy's program was really good at, it's gone. Mike Gundy was really good for a really long time at bringing in guys that fit his system, that fit his culture, developing them for a few years, and then they would have some really good teams on the strength of Cowboy culture and on the strength of Mike doing that. And through no fault of Mike's, the game has totally changed. And what worked for 17, 18 years, because, I mean, again, 2 years ago, they were in the Big 12 title game. What worked for 17 or 18 years doesn't work anymore. It's not working. And Oklahoma State clearly has shown an inability to adapt and to make it work with what college football is now. And, yeah, when I read that from Bill, I'm like, that's a bar, Bill.
Well, and I'm not here to give Mike Gundy a pass for the game changing. You either adapt and change, or you lose your job, and that's clearly where this is trending.
Just to be
I
clear,
think his recruiting has been slipping for a decade. That's how you get to the Big 12 title game and you're non-competitive when you get to the big boys, and that's been the case for 5-6 years now.
yeah, no, just to be clear, it wasn't intended to give Mike Gundy a pass. It was more to draw a clear line in the sand, like a line of delineation. Gundy's really good. Gundy's really good. Gundy's great. Gundy's great. Gundy's great. Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer. Worst team in the Power Four. Like, there's a pretty clear line in the sand that you can draw between NIL, transfer portal. This is just an uncapped salary cap. This is just an uncapped salary sport now. There's a pretty clear line you can draw between that and Oklahoma State from going from a perennial top 15 program in the country to the worst team in the Power Four. It's not meant to give a pass. It's just a clear line that we're drawing when that happened.
Yeah, certainly slipping to the depths of worst in Power Four. That's a clear line, but it's been slipping for a while. Like you and I have talked about on this show many times. It's a credit to Mike that they got to the Big 12 title game 2 years ago. In hindsight, that was a heck of a coaching job based on the talent level that they had. It's credit to Ollie Gordon, kind of revitalizing that season. But they've been slipping for a while now, and to me, it all comes back to the lack of talent on the roster. And like they got a totally new roster this year. He's trying to make it work in this era, but that's a valid point you bring up. My tweet that drew the ire of Gavin Gundy was basically what I said. I tweeted, imagine spending the money to travel to Oregon and buy tickets to watch Gundy punt from the Oregon 42 down 13-0 as a 4-touchdown underdog. And to me, that's, again, complete slap in the face to everyone associated with Oklahoma State football. It just is. So Gavin Gundy went on a larger rant, but part of it was directed at me. Quote tweeted me and said, quote, imagine being this pathetic. You will never understand the size of balls it takes to do what he does and how Oklahoma State would be completely irrelevant without him. So you can sit there and tweet all you want, but you will never know what it takes to be successful in life. Colby, who does that sound like? Does that sound like, does that remind you of anybody about online criticism and deadbeats who can't pay their bills? Does that remind you of anyone?
I know what you're getting at for sure. Look, Carson, I imagine that this is a hard time to be a lover of Mike Gundy, to be Mike Gundy's son, to watch the online discourse. 69-3 is a day to log off. It's not a day to dig in. It's a day to log off. And that got real personal real fast.
Yeah, and I'm not going to stoop to that level, although I could if we want to start comparing.
No, we don't need to do that. It's just
start comparing resumes. We can do that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to stoop to his level. But he also went on a larger rant.
But your tweet was criticizing a punt. That's your tweet was criticizing a coaching decision that a coach made, a high profile public figure coach made, and he got real personal, real fast, pathetic. You'll never know what it takes to be successful in life. Like that got really personal, really fast over the criticism of a punt or go for it decision. It's just a good day to log off. 69-3 is a good day to log off.
And first off, like I can understand his frustration. Like it's his dad. Mike Gundy's his dad. If people were online criticizing my dad's job and the job he does on a day-to-day basis, it would bother me. I'm sure it would. And I'm not even saying I wouldn't get get on social media and blast people. So I can understand it's personal for him. It's his dad. I understand all that. Uh, that, and I don't take any offense. Like I've had people say unspeakable things to me on Twitter for close to 15 years now, ever since I've been on TV. Like that, I've got thick skin and that doesn't bother me anymore. So it, certainly Gavin Gundy didn't bother me. He deleted it really quickly. But the funny thing about this is 5 years ago, the O'Colly wrote a story about Gavin Gundy ripping people on social media. This is back in 2020 after they lost to TCU. Uh, his Mike had to call him and tell him to take things down and things of that nature. Here's a quote from Gavin Gundy five years ago. I shouldn't have said OSU was irrelevant without him. That was probably taken out of context. It was more trying to say basically for people to step back and look at the last 15 to 16 years that he's coached and the things that we've accomplished and seen, the draft picks, the bowl games, the television. It almost made Oklahoma State relevant on a national stage. It was 5 years ago. Here's also what he tweeted that he deleted. Let's cut the BS. Mike Gundy is Oklahoma State football, period. No debate, no asterisk. And I'm not going to read all this as a player, record setting quarterback, as a coach, blah, 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 blah. Now compare that to fans who love to talk.
People can find it if they want to find it. Search
yeah,
Gavin.
you can go find it.
You'll find it, yeah.
And
it's honestly too long to read. It's like three or four screenshots.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm bringing that up to say, like, clearly hasn't learned his lesson from 5 years ago, because clapping back on social media and going on expletive rants defending your dad makes you look bad.
Yeah, it does. And Carson, I think I don't understand. I understand it's hard to be Mike Gundy's son right now. I get that part. And I'm not even necessarily addressing just Gavin here. I'm also addressing some other, like Inside Oklahoma State is tweeting out like no Mike Gundy slander will be tolerated. And I don't understand criticizing a 69-3 loss that is your 10th loss in 11 games, your only win, a mediocre one against a mediocre performance against an FCS opponent. I don't understand criticizing the now, with the erasure of 20 years of success. No one is erasing anything that Mike Gundy has done. Carson, you and I are 2 weeks removed from on this podcast talking about how Mike Gundy is a surefire college football Hall of Famer. We had that conversation 2 weeks ago, and I guarantee you and I have not changed our stance on that. He is a surefire college football Hall of Famer. No one is erasing 20 years of what Mike Gundy has done at Oklahoma State. But it would be weird if we did not come on this podcast and criticize what is happening with Oklahoma State football right now when you have lost 10 of your last 11 games and you're getting drummed repeatedly. You're not on a good run of bad luck where you keep losing by a field goal because the ball doesn't bounce your way at the end. You are getting drummed. Your last two games against Power 4 opponents were a 52-0 loss and a 69-3 loss. It would be weird if we did not criticize those just because he's the best head coach in school history. Just because, 2005 through 2023, that was a lot of fun. We're not doing a 2005 through 2023 podcast. We're doing a podcast on September 7th, 2025 about what's happening right now, about the state of the program right now. This is not a let's go back and litigate the career of Mike Gundy. Nobody's trying to do that. We're talking about right now. And right now, the only thing that's fair is criticism. When we go back and talk about Mike Gundy's career, praise will be fair at that point. That's not what we're doing today. That's not what we were doing yesterday at halftime of a 49-3 game or whatever the score was at halftime. Stop equating criticism of the now with erasure of the past. No one's doing that.
It's well said. I mean, that's the whole point. Like, we all know Mike Gundy's standing with Oklahoma State football. We all know the heights he's brought them to. That's not relevant to the conversation. Like, and again, everything you said is accurate, and that's the clear and obvious point to be made, is that, and also too, like, Mike Gundy's paid $7 million. He's got thick skin too. Like, he knows this comes with the territory. You should know that this comes with the territory by now. He's been doing this 21 years. Like, it's silly. And I've probably given it too much time on this podcast as it is, but just all that's to be said. I understand He's your dad. I understand your frustration. And again, I was calling Mike Gundy out. Like people forget because time moves on and people have short attention spans, things of that nature. I think I was the only one when Mike Gundy was at odds with Mike Holder after the 2011 season, publicly stating that Mike Holder needs to give Mike Gundy a massive contract. I was one of the few people anywhere you can find calling him a college football Hall of Famer like 7-8 years ago. So I'm not just some hater of Mike Gundy. Like I have given him credit when it's due, time and time again, and even then some. No one was calling him college football Hall of Famer 8 years ago. I was. So that's really all that needs to be said there. But he makes $7 million to endure criticism like that, and he needs to figure out what's going on with his football program because they're not competitive right now. One other thing, like we have a lot of things to get to here, and I've been getting a lot of text messages about this, but I want to make something clear here, Colby, because people also have forgotten what happened this past off season. For the people out there that think the Board of Regents are who brought Mike Gundy back and that it's their fault or that they should have fired him, they could have fired him and they should have, like, for some reason, everyone centers all the talk to the Board of Regents. And I was all over this story. I had fantastic sources all over this thing. All the Board of Regents did, I'm going to say this again so people understand the situation. All the Board of Regents did was greenlight everything Chad Weiberg wanted to do. And all Chad Weiberg wanted to do was exert his leverage over Mike Gundy to reduce his contract and to make real changes within the program, because Mike Gundy wasn't willing to do that without it. He wasn't. And so he went to the Board of Regents to gain the leverage that he needed with his contract to force Mike Gundy to make real changes. And what happened? His contract got reduced and he fired his entire staff. Now, I'm not sitting here saying Chad went in there and demanded everyone be fired. He demanded change, and he demanded it, or he was willing to let Mike Gundy go if he didn't change, if he didn't make real changes. He wanted to keep Mike, and I think I still think, you don't want to be the school that fires your all-time winningest coach after one losing season. For the people now that are saying that Chad screwed up, he should have fired Mike, that's real easy for you to say when Agreed. You're not in that position as athletic director. So people got to stop with this. The Board of Regents are this, they wield all the power within the university. Casey Schrum wanted Mike Gundy back. And Chad Weiberg wanted him back under certain conditions, which he got. The Board of Regents were the means to that end. They are not deciding carte blanche without Chad Weiberg and the president of the university who's going to be the head football coach. So I keep hearing this. I keep seeing it on social media. I keep seeing it on the chamber. And I keep hearing other people that do podcasts trying to say it's all the Board of Regents and they're the big bad wolf that tried to hose Mike Gundy, or they should have gotten rid of him. Like, that is not how this thing worked. So I had to get that out there.
Yeah, no, that's I agree. It's easy for people to say what should have happened after a 69-3 loss, but I think most people last year, whenever that was going down, there were some people that wanted Gundy fired, but I do think that we tried to bring some level-headedness to that conversation, and there is an element of, like, do you want to be the school that fires your 20-year tenured best head coach in the history of the program after one bad year? Like, I mean, I remember you and I having conversations like, Mike Gundy deserves the opportunity to right the ship. Now, if he fails, then maybe it's time for a new era at Oklahoma State. But he absolutely deserved the right to right the ship, the chance to right the ship. They were in the Big 12 title game the previous season. So you have one bad season. Yes, Mike Gundy deserves the chance to right the ship. And by the way, he still has that chance. If they turn things around, so be it. They lost to South Alabama 2 years ago, and we were, fire alarm, and then they went to the Big 12 championship game. I don't think that's happening this year because things seem a little bit more discombobulated. Cowboy culture doesn't seem to be culturing so hard right now. And again, 10 of your last 11. You snuck one 20-point win in over an FCS opponent in the middle. This is 10 of your last 11, and your last two are 121-3. So, I mean, that's your last two games against Power 4 opponents, 121-3.
Yeah, that's bad. So yeah, I mean, I think we'll see if they can turn around. I do think, to your point, They gave him a chance to turn things around, and now, like with that result against Oregon, I don't see a whole lot of defending of Mike Gundy on social media or otherwise. So I think you let this season play out, and I think it's kind of the decision's kind of making itself. I kind of think Mike would like to retire and go do something else if that's what the powers that be want, and that remains to be seen.
Well,
Um,
this can't be fun for Mike Gundy. Like he's not enjoying his job at this point. There's no way. There's no way that this is fun. There's no way that he just wants to keep doing this like this in its current state. I mean, imagine how Mike feels today. Like he's got to be embarrassed. He's got to wake up sick to his stomach this morning. I feel for him. Like the game changed. Your program's bad. You're searching for answers. You don't have any. Clearly, the boat's too far down the river. You can't get it back now. I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's no way that he's having fun right now and enjoying this and thinking, yeah, I'd like to do this for another 5 years. That cannot possibly be the thoughts rattling around his head this morning.
do you think the OSU football program's processes are manual and inefficient with no documentation? Do you think their data reporting takes forever and isn't accurate? Do they hear the hype about AI, but have no clue what it actually means for our business? Or the project always runs over time and over budget? If so, Oklahoma State football needs to call Brewster Consulting Group. They help build organizations that run like well-oiled machines with clear processes, reliable data, and reporting and technology that actually works for you. Their team of 6 Sigma Black Belts, PMP certified project managers, and seasoned data engineers have delivered solutions that are built to last for local clients like the Tulsa International Airport and Medify. They've also delivered solutions for large international enterprises like DP World. Even better, they're founded and ran by a proud OSU alum and season ticket holder. Learn more about them at brewsterconsulting.com or learn more about their methodologies by connecting with them at Brewster Consulting Group on LinkedIn or YouTube. And this is a zero-sum game now, Colby, for Chad Weiberg. When we're talking big picture with what's going to happen with Mike Gundy, you and I went to the game. It was on Thursday night, so I'm going to reserve judgment on the crowd and see. And we've heard a lot of people have canceled season tickets after the fiasco that was going 3-9, and the fiasco of Gundy insulting the fan base. All of those things. I'm curious how many people have canceled season tickets. We'll see when there's an actual Saturday game what the crowds look like. But this is a zero-sum game in the NIL era. You cannot afford, as an athletic department and a football program, to have your stadium empty on Saturdays or fans. Mike's lost the fan base at this point, is what it feels like, with all the season ticket cancellations, things of that nature. Let's say he wins 6-7 games and the stadium's empty. I mean, what do you do there if you're Chad Weiberg? It's a terrible position for Chad and this program to be in.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think if they won 6-7 games, something positive would have happened along the way, and people would start to fill the stadium back up. I'll be curious to see what it looks like against Tulsa on a Friday night. I would think there would be a decent amount of people, Oklahoma State and Tulsa fans, coming over from Tulsa. I mean, that's just an hour and 15 minutes down the road. So you'd like to think the stadium will be reasonably full. I have season tickets. I won't be there for that one. It's on a Friday night. I've got a toddler. My parents are out of town, so they're not going to be there. I don't know if my sister's using our tickets. We might have some tickets that we're giving away on the pod if somebody wants to go to that game. I don't know, Carson. I mean, look, I've got a kid. I've got things happening. I've got a couple of golf tournaments on the weekend in October. I don't know how many more games I'm going to make it to this year. I'm going to have to see what the product's going to be because I sat through some blowouts last year, and I can watch blowouts on TV, and I don't want that to sound like unloyal and true or anything like that. I've been to a bunch of games for the last nearly 30 years now. My family's had season tickets nearly my entire life, and I've been to almost all of them. But I'm just at a different place in my life right now. My daughter doesn't like going to the games. She's 3 years old. The loud noises scare her. And if I have to decide between taking 7 hours of my day to drive to Stillwater, fight the traffic, get in the stadium, watch the game, fight the traffic, getting out, get back home, those are 7 hours I could be spending at home with my kiddo. So, yeah, it's going to be weird, but I would have to imagine this will be the fewest amount of Oklahoma State home games that I will have attended in a season, probably in my lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're not alone in that. So we'll see. In Bill Hastings' column, 3 names he threw out for potential head coaches were Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator at OU, that looked really good against Michigan. He's 30 years old, very young. Zach Robinson, who I brought up on this show during the Mike Gundy contract saga. There was genuine interest there from both sides based on my reporting. I got a few texts during the game from connected people that reiterated that interest. I don't think Zach wants to be viewed as pushing Mike out or anything like that. And also, he has a job. He's the offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons. He's only paid $500,000. So I don't know who would be on the potential short list. I do know Zach actually would be on the short list. I know that for a fact. But it's kind of an odd scenario with that, in that, how do you see this play, Colby? Like, let's say they wanted to hire Zach Robinson. He's not going to be available till when? When's the NFL season end? I mean, it's going to be late December.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a long time to wait in the NIL era to get a head coach in place and to get his own staff and players. It would take a lot of recruiting on that side of things. But for people who think Zach Robinson's just this it's not the prototypical former player come be our coach thing. This guy's learned under Sean McVay with the Rams, and that's like the hottest commodity for the NFL teams, is hiring people from the McVay tree. There's also some personal connections there that I'm not going to get into with Zach that would make the job appealing for him. And so I can say on September 7th, 2 games into the year, that if they part ways with Mike Gundy, Zach Robinson will be the number one target by a long margin. How that plays out with his job in the NFL, and hell, the NFL might want to hire him to be a head coach. Maybe he wants to do that if that opportunity comes around, but he will be the number one target. I can say that with 100% confidence.
And he would be an absolute smash of a hire. The Falcons won't play their final game until it looks like around January 3rd, January 4th. And that's if they don't make the playoffs, by the way. They're in a 2-team division. The Panthers and the Saints are in their division, so it's just them and the Bucs. And again, as I see Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubbs be absolute failures in their couple of years since that national championship run, and I see all the receivers on those teams get drafted high and then just be mid or not even on rosters anymore in the NFL, I'm starting to think Michael Penix might be really, really good. So maybe the Falcons make the playoffs, in which case he wouldn't be done until mid-January, but Zach would be an absolute smash hire. He's viewed as a really good young offensive coordinator, innovative in the NFL, and yeah, he would be a big time hire. So that list would be number one. That name would be number one on your list by a mile. And then if you're not able to make that work, I don't know who the second name on that list is. It's September 7th. There's no way that we would know who the second name on that list would be for a few months. But I think that there's going to have to be something unexpected happen over the next 10 weeks. Otherwise, we're going to be having a lot more who's the next head coach at Oklahoma State conversations, because it just – does it feel like anybody wants this to keep going? Does it feel like any of the I can't imagine Gundy wants it to keep going like this. He didn't want to go out the way he went out last year, and I get that. And he didn't deserve to go out the way he went last year. But if you get your chance to right the ship and then it goes worse, then maybe at that point he throws his hands up and he's like, you know what, this is just how I'm going out, but I can still rest easy knowing what I did for that program for the last 20 years. And he would be able to rest easy knowing what he did for this program for the last 20 years. But yeah, it appears that we're getting close to the time for change.
Well, and I was very dubious of Zach Robinson's interest when I first heard about it. I was like, that guys, he's in the NFL. Like he's set there. He's going to be a head coach soon. But that quickly changed based on some conversations I had last year. And I heard from some of the same people that's the focus, that's the target. And I do think this is another thing I've heard, that the decision makers want to see them play Tulsa, just like you and I do, and see if this was an Oregon thing or if OSU has really fallen this far. And I do think if it goes like Colby, if they lose to Tulsa and like lose by a decent margin, I think that dramatically changes their thinking. I do. That's me speculating. But I think ultimately they would. I think here's what I gather, and this isn't me reporting this. This is just kind of the vibe I'm getting. I think they would like for Mike to go ahead and announce he's retiring at the end of the year, turn it into like not turn it into a send off, but that allows two different timelines to start taking place, right? The timeline of hiring a new coach,
Yeah.
the timeline of giving Mike what he's owed and properly due. Name it the last game of the season, unveil the Mike Gundy Field sign at Boone
Yeah.
Pickens Stadium, do all the things that Mike was always going to get, and give him the proper send off. Whether it's that harmonious, we'll see. There's a lot. Again, they could go beat Tulsa by 3 touchdowns and have a good season. We don't know at this point. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could. Mike Gundy's he's got off the mat many times in his career because he's a really good football coach. But that's kind of what the vibe I'm getting is they're reserving judgment, but this is the wheels are going to be in motion very soon if things keep going this poorly.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to lose to Tulsa because I can't get there in my brain. Tulsa's been really bad for a long time. We beat them 45-10 last year in an absolute rout with a team that was not that clearly we could say at the end of the season was not very good. I think the more interesting test is against Baylor the following week. Baylor is an exactly average college football team. That's what they are. So if you go out on your home field against an exactly average college football team and you get drummed 49-6, at this point, yes, I'm in favor of what you're talking about there. Name the field, build the statue. Let's all give our thanks while also being able to look forward to the next era. Because if things do go particularly bad over the next few weeks, let's say you beat Tulsa by a touchdown, you lose to Baylor by 40, you lose to Arizona by 30. I would rather be having the future of the program conversations than more of these Mike Gundy's got to go conversations, more of these just it's just going to delay the inevitable if things do go really poorly. And yeah, I mean, look, we've got what? We've got 25 more podcasts in football season that we're going to do. I don't want all of them to just be, oh my gosh, this is awful. Oh my gosh, this is awful. This has to change. This has to change. Like, if it's going to happen like that, then yes, I think the way that you're saying it would be the best way for it to go for everybody.
Yeah, I mean that would be best for all. Did you not see the Baylor score yesterday? They're not average.
They're average. SMU's average. Baylor's average.
That was a really good win. They won double overtime. They beat 17th ranked SMU, and I know preseason polls don't really matter, but that's a good win on the road.
Yeah, SMU's average, Baylor's average. Baylor hosted Auburn in week 1 and lost 38-24. I mean, an unranked Auburn team. Maybe Baylor's slightly above average. Baylor's not Oregon. You know, they're just another Big 12 team, a Big 12 team that going into the season you thought you should be roughly as close to as good as. I had that Baylor SMU game up on the side screen. I think Baylor's fine. I think Dave Aranda's a lunatic. He's going for it like in a tie game on 4th and 3 at his own 32-yard line. He's just a madman. But yes, that would be a good test. I mean, Arizona is the week after Baylor. That's a road game, but you know, Arizona hadn't been any good. I don't know where you draw the line in the sand is like, this is the opponent that we're going to know whether this team is truly, truly terrible or if something in this season is going to be salvageable. But yeah, Tulsa in 2 weeks, boy, Friday night home game. That's a nationally televised game, by the way. Oklahoma State Tulsa's on ESPN. Don't embarrass yourselves.
That's how quick things could change.
Oh, don't embarrass yourselves.
I mean, you lose Tulsa on national TV. That would be bad. I mean, I just don't know how the offense is going to function, Colby. Just looking at Zane's line, I mean, 7 for 19, 37%, 67 yards, and two pick sixes. I know you're playing Tulsa, but I don't know what they're going to do offensively because it's a tire fire right now. So
I'd like to think you're going to do whatever you want offensively. I'd like to think Tulsa's bad enough that you're going to do whatever you want offensively. Tulsa lost to New Mexico State 21-14 this weekend.
Yeah, I would think so. What else do you want to get into before we get out of here? We need to hear from Wolf Corporation, I believe.
We do, yes. I was wanting to get just briefly into the golf, too. Preston Stout and Ethan Fang are out there in California at Cypress Point. But we'll get to that here in just a moment. Cowboy fans, if you're looking to sell or lease your commercial property, turn to Wolf Corporation, Oklahoma's trusted commercial real estate listing brokerage since 2010. Their experienced team specializes in showcasing your retail office or industrial space to the right buyers and tenants across the state. Based right here in Oklahoma, they deliver results with local expertise. Visit them at wolfcorporation.com. That's WULF corporation.com, or call 405-308-3480 today. Go Pokes. Carson, briefly switching over to golf here. Tell me you caught a little bit of Cypress Point yesterday, a little bit of the Pokes at Cypress Point.
I was all college football, man. I can't do amateur golf. I love the Walker Cup, and I love the fact there's 2 OSU guys in it, but I can't do that on a Saturday, man. I'm watching football.
And to be fair, you don't have 3 TVs on your wall, to my knowledge. So I'm pretty easily able to side screen the golf and keep an eye on it. Cypress is pretty amazing. Ethan Fang got a halve in his singles match yesterday. Stout and Fang were on a team yesterday morning in foursomes and lost 1 down on the 18th. It was the only match of the morning to make it to the 18th. That was a tough one to stomach. But Stout won like 6-5 yesterday afternoon. So for any of my other like real golf nerds out there, Cypress Point is the number 1 golf course in the world on pretty much every rankings list every year. Sometimes Pine Valley sneaks in there, but it's usually Cypress Point, and you never get to see golf televised at Cypress Point. It's extremely rare. So I'm going to try to catch some more of it today and probably even record it, because even on TV, this golf course just looks so different than anything else that we see pretty much ever. So cool to see 2 Cowboys out there at that place in what is a very tight Walker Cup right now. I think 6.5 to 5.5 after day 1. And for the truly golf uninitiated, most of you actually listening to this probably don't know what the Walker Cup is. It's the amateur version of the Ryder Cup. So all the college kids, mid-am guys, Stuart Hagestad, like all of those guys against Great Britain and Northern Ireland, or against Great Britain and Ireland's best. They play a Ryder Cup style tournament every other year as well. 2 years ago, it was in St. Andrews. This year, it's at Cypress Point. So they get big time golf courses for this event. So yeah, pretty cool stuff, and cool to have a couple of Pokes out there.
Is it on again today?
Yeah, it'll be on again today. A few hours, I think. It's out in California, so yeah, it'll be on again today.
I'll make time for it today.
Yeah,
well, now we got NFL. I got to monitor my fantasy football team.
Full slate of NFL today. The thing Oklahoma State related I'm watching out for today, I mean, over or under half a touchdown for Ollie Gordon. They're playing the Colts. It's just 2 average teams playing against each other, but he's RB2 today. Achan's playing, but he's RB2. It'd be pretty fun to see Ollie get in the end zone.
Raheem Mostert ran for 21 touchdowns as the RB2 for Miami. My hope is that Ollie just assumes the Raheem Mostert goal line work and he scores a couple today, because I rostered him in both of my leagues. Got him pretty late too.
Now, you rostered him. You're not starting him today, or are you starting him today?
No, man, I'm too loaded. I'll see how it plays out. He might not play at all. It might be all Devin Achan for all we know. So I need to see how it plays out first.
That's what you say. You're a madman if you're starting him. I'd love to see Ollie score a touchdown, but yeah,
he'd be a nice DFS play if you play the DFS. Like that would be, he'll be low rostered.
Yeah, I've got. I don't think I rostered any Oklahoma State guys. I've got DraftKings was doing a like deposit $5, you get a free ticket to their millionaire this week. So I put a couple $5 lineups in, and I don't think I have any Cowboys. I almost ended up with Chuba in one, but I took James Conner instead against the Saints. So yeah, I'm excited for the NFL slate to be back. Excited to see what the Oklahoma State guys can do around the league, and just sit down and watch some good football this afternoon.
Yep, that'll be fun. OSU gets a much needed bye week. And one last note here, Colby. I pulled up yards per play nationally. Where do you think Oklahoma State ranks nationally in yards per play on offense?
How many teams are there in the rankings?
129.
I mean, let's go 128. Maybe there's somebody below us.
They're 123, but I mean, we're talking decimal points here.
Coming in hot.
Oklahoma State is 123 at 3.3 yards per play.
Okay.
They averaged over 7 that year. They were top 5 in the country with Mason and Yursich. Iowa is at 3.2.
Oh my God. See, and this is the problem. Oklahoma State has gotten this bad on offense by accident. Iowa chooses to be that bad on offense, and pray all hail Iowa State for winning that game yesterday.
At this point, it's kind of a choice for Oklahoma State too, isn't it? They're running the same plays.
Yes, but I mean, Kirk Ferentz, like Mike Gundy throughout his tenure, like he's had really high power offenses. Kirk Ferentz throughout his entire coaching tenure has had a complete inability to want to run an offense. They want to win games 3-0. Oklahoma State has just kind of stumbled into this, I feel like. I don't feel like Gundy ever wanted to get to a point where his offense was totally inept and they were just trying to win games without scoring. That's all Kirk Ferentz wants to do. That's what Kirk Ferentz goes to bed at night thinking about.
Kirk likes to punt too. I mean,
Kirk likes to punt.
So does OSU. I mean, they've basically like the great karma for me is OSU's turned into Iowa essentially without the defense.
Yeah, Spider-Man meme. By the way, you know who Iowa's quarterback is this year? I learned.
No, who?
Mark Gronowski, the South Dakota State kid from last year.
That's right. I knew that. I kind of had like one eye on that game while I was doing stuff around the house. But good for Iowa State. First time beating Iowa at home since 2011. That game was playing out very much like Bedlam, where Iowa State is the superior team, but just can't exercise the demons. But their kicker nails just a long field goal to win the game.
He's the best kicker in the country, I think. He hit a 54-yarder last year to win that game. He hit a 54-yarder this year to win that game. Last week, he made a 63-yarder. He might be the best kicker in the country. And yeah, the Gronowski kid, he's not a Division I guy. He's firmly an FCS guy after watching that game yesterday. He's perfect for Iowa, though, because they're just going to run him a little bit. They're going to ask him to throw like 9 times a game on play action or maybe when it's 3rd and 9. But yeah, Iowa's not going to be any good this year.
Yeah. I also sent you the ending of the Arizona State game. You brought up Arizona State, Mississippi State. And I told you I liked Mississippi State in that game, and they were Arizona State kicked a field goal with like a minute and a half left and then just gives up a bomb touchdown with like 30 seconds to go to lose. I mean, the Big 12 is terrible. Kansas State lost to Army. Like the Big 12 is terrible.
Oh, I saw Kansas State leading that game with 4 minutes left or something. I didn't realize Kansas State messed around and lost that game.
They lost to Army.
That's bad. They almost lost to North Dakota last week. That's
Big 12's bad, man. And that's what's scary is OSU's one of the worst teams in the Big 12.
Baylor. I mean, Texas Tech hadn't played anybody, but they're winning. They're beating FCS schools 70-0. That's what good teams do. You go out and beat the bad team 70-0. Well,
and maybe there's that line of demarcation, like you mentioned, with NIL era in Kansas State.
Maybe
I mean, they're trending like Oklahoma State, but that's where I draw the line a little bit on solely blaming the NIL era. Like Iowa State looks really good. This might be Matt Campbell's best team.
They won 11 games last year.
It's in the middle of the NIL era, and people were saying, "Oh, it's his last hurrah with this team. They're all a bunch of seniors." Things that maybe that's true, but there's a lot of football programs out there with less resources winning football games than Oklahoma State. And so, yes, the times have changed, and Oklahoma State has to adapt with them, but they should not be this bad. In the Big 12, OSU would be they'd be in the upper third money wise. They would. So no one's asking you to go on the road and beat Oregon with their resources. They're just asking you not to get curb stomped and to not go winless in conference play. That'll get you. And that's the greater discussion about Mike Gundy and his tenure. I don't care if you're Nick Saban or Bear Bryant. Name your college football Hall of Famer. If you're not competitive and you lose your last 2 FBS games by a combined score of 121-3, like you get fired as a college football head coach. That's just the nature of the business. It's not personal. It's strictly business. And that's where we're at. OSU is a non-competitive football program. The last 2 games have been the worst 2 losses of Mike Gundy's tenure. And I read out all the other blowout losses from the last 3 or 4 years. This is not a one-off. This is a trend, and that's ultimately what's at play here.
Yeah, there have just been several times in the last several years where we've sat here on this podcast and had to ask ourselves, is that the worst, most embarrassing loss in program history? Is that the worst, most embarrassing loss in the Mike Gundy era? We asked it in Manhattan and in Lawrence in 2022, I believe. We asked it against South Alabama in 2023. We asked it last year against Colorado to close the season, and we're asking it again this year after a 69-3 drubbing in Oregon. There's been a lot of games recently where we're asking if this is the worst, most embarrassing game in school history. Is this the worst, most embarrassing game under Mike Gundy? We're asking now, last year, this year. I mean, is this year's team going to be worse than last year's? Are these going to be the 2 worst seasons in modern program history back to back? It's just, yeah, things have gone really bad really fast. Yeah, I miss that Bedlam pod we were doing in 2023. That was fun. I might even go back and listen to it at one point this week just to remind myself of the good times and get a little shot of orange power in my veins, because that was a whole lot more fun than what we did today.
Yeah, my one saving grace yesterday. So my wife went to OU, as people know. She was rocking her OU gear. Looked really good too in it, if I say so myself. But my two stepdaughters are split. The oldest likes OSU, the youngest likes OU. And I kind of made a joke with her that, hey, like, you might have made a good decision. This is before the game kicked off. Like, you might have made a good decision, because I would have had a lot less heartbreak and disappointment being an OU fan versus an OSU fan, but I wouldn't change that for the world. And I did get in my one saving grace was I got in a dig that, hey, Oklahoma State's forever the Bedlam champ. I was teaching the young one that Oklahoma State's forever the Bedlam champion. They won the last matchup and sent them packing. And and the best part is they keep bringing up a pass interference call, because that's all my dad and the old timers had to go on was Garrett Limbrick getting a flag thrown for an egregious call. It's like total role reversal, and OSU is the Big 12 champ forever, and she hates that when I say that. That's really all I have going for me right now.
Honestly, 2023 Bedlam, still, I mean, everyone who had anything to do with that win, like, no matter what else happens, you can always look back and say, you know what? You gave me that. Casey Dunn, you gave me that. Mike Gundy, you gave me that. Alan Bowman, you gave me that. All those guys. Rashad Owens, all those guys. You gave me that. And we're forever great. We're forever grateful for that. I'm glad we ended this pod on 2023 Bedlam. That was a great place to end it.
Yeah.
Forever Bedlam champs.
I won't bring up how good Kendall Daniels looked at OU either. So let's just end it on a high note.
Yeah, no, we'll just end it on a high note. We'll be back. Carson, bye week. What do we get? We gonna do late week pod. Just maybe we'll do some general college football stuff. Whatever.
Yeah, I think we should open it up to the listeners. I'll put out a call for Twitter questions, and I'll put a post on the chamber too for all of the Pistols Firing subscribers. I think Marshall's been doing that with his podcast. It's a really good place to go for people that are committed to Pistols Firing. So I might put a thread on there for questions, and I think we just get into, like, no one really, like, what are we going to break down X's and O's going into Tulsa on a bye week? It's big picture time, and I'll continue to, again, I was all over the contract situation. I'll try to learn more as I can as this situation evolves, because it's going to be evolving starting today. I would think, up there in Stillwater. So it's going to be an interesting 3 months, and it's not a situation we ever wanted to be in. We wanted Gunny to go out as a Big 12 and national champion. But there's real conversations to be had, and I think there's real questions to ask, and so we'll open it up to the listeners.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because Mike won't have a press conference this week either. I can't remember if he does coaches shows on bye weeks, but he won't have a presser this week on the bye week. So yeah, we've got his quotes from last night, and we'll get back after it later in the week. So find us on Twitter. Carson is at Carson_OKC. I'm at Colby J Powell. Send us your questions. You can also go over to the Pistols Firing chamber as well. So head over to pistolsfiringblog.com for all the great content. And Carson, great stuff. As always, thanks everyone for listening. Go Pokes.